Welcome back. Back in the shop again working on the Mustang. If you watched the last video, I changed the water pump, hoping to reduce the overheating issues with the car, but kind of failed on that. So we're going to also try putting a belt drive back on the water pump. So stock crank pulley, got an underdrive one on there right now, and stock water pump pulley. And then I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with the belt to actually drive this. But first we need to clean these things up because they're off the used motor, and yeah, they just look like hell. So give them a quick sandblasting, quick coat of paint, we'll throw them on, and then we'll see what we can do with getting the belts to work. Okay, here's our parts, here's our sandblaster. It's going to get crazy noisy, so this would be a good time for time-lapse and rock and roll music. So here we go. Alright, that took a really long time for a couple of reasons. One is the media that I had in the sandblaster was well used, and the more you use it, the finer it gets and the less aggressive it gets, so I had to change the media. And the other issue is my sandblaster likes to clog, so you have to back purge the thing. But anyway, so this is what we got. A lot better, so we'll throw them on the bench, put some paint on them. So we dusted on a first coat. You always want to do a really light dusting of the first coat and then chase it with a second coat about 20 minutes later. So guess what? It's 20 minutes later, and let's put a real coat on. And we'll let that dry overnight. Got our water pump and our crank pulley painted up, so we're going to pull off what's there, throw these on, and see what our possibilities are for still being able to drive the alternator. So we'll start with the water pump. Okay, and this is why we're changing the crank pulleys. So, had a bit of an underdrive pulley on there. Alternator was struggling to generate charging voltage at idle, so put the stock one back on. Give it a bit of help. that still will fit with the alternator. And it doesn't look like it, so I'm going to need a longer alternator belt, certainly. And let's see if I can catch the water pump on there, though. That would be wonderful if I could. Well, looks like, I wonder if I might be able to modify this existing bracket, get the alternator to pull over this way a bit further, and that gives me a little bit more height with the alternator, and I might be able to get this belt to rub on the back side of that water pump, and then that would just be wonderful. So, let's pull this bracket off, and let's see what we can do with that. Now, if I was smart, I would have marked that bracket where I need to grind it first. So let's go back and do that after the fact. So it looks like if we cut that section out there, we should win. What are the chances of this thing pouring water when I pull these bolts out? I can't remember if they're blind or not. So let's get a drain pan ready, just in case. It's loose, no dribbling so far, so... Okay, bone dry. Excellent. At least the bottom one is. Let's hope the top one is blind as well. That one's a little bit wet, and we're getting some drips, so we're going to put that bolt back in. Okay, it might not have been a bolt, it might have been the water pump gasket itself leaking, because we took both bolts off that side of the water pump. All right, let's do some hacking on this thing, and see how it turns out. All right, let's see if it fits. And we're getting wet already. So we gotta do this quick. We still got a long way to go to get that belt on. Looks like. And I need to be grinding down further. Instead of up, I need to be grinding more down there. Well, now we know. So, kind of failed on the whole water pump pulley thing. The goal was to try and see if we could put stock pulleys on and get enough backside wrap on the belt with the current custom alternator position. But if I put our stock water pump pulley in there, we're still about a 1/4 inch away from hitting the belt. And I could make a whole other custom alternator mount to raise it up to try and get a bit more belt wrap here. But I think what I'm going to do in the end is I'm going to order a water pump pulley with the grooves on it, and I'm going to order a standard rotation water pump, and then we're just going to put the belt around the top. That way I'm assured of getting enough belt wrap on both alternator crank and the water pump. And we'll see how that works for cooling going down the road. I'm going to be giving up those horsepower by driving the water pump. I was hoping that with the backside here, if I could get just a little bit of contact on the backside, that would be enough to spin the water pump, but not so much that it couldn't slip the belt at high RPM, then I wouldn't be using up as much horsepower. But yeah, that was the plan. Didn't quite work out. So anyway, parts are on order. Well, we'll go back and we'll deal with that later. In the meantime, just put the electric drive back on and drive it for a week while I'm waiting for those parts to come in. So, in one last desperate attempt at not replacing the water pump that I just replaced, we bought an underdrive water pump pulley. So you can see the size difference between the stock one and this one. It's about, looks to be about a 1/2 inch in diameter bigger than the stock one. And if I slide that one on, it's just touching the belt, but it's not pushing the belt enough that the belt's actually going to spin the water pump. So yeah, guess we're changing the water pump. I tried. All right, after exhausting all the other options, we bought a water pump pulley that's got the grooves on it. So this is for standard rotation, so the belt wraps around this way. And we bought ourselves a standard rotation water pump. So I'm going to save from boring you watching me change a water pump again. If you desperately want to see a water pump being changed on a 5-liter Ford, then I'll put a link here to the other video where you can see me fight with water pumps. But we're going to swap this on, put our pulley on, measure it for the new belt that we're going to need, order up the new belt, and hopefully solve our cooling system problems. All right, we got our new standard rotation water pump on. We've got our new pulley on. And we've set the alternator to about half of its travel. So now the question is, what's the belt length that we need? So what we're going to do is we're going to go one lap around here with some masking tape and peel it back off and then measure it. We know that we need stickier tape. And a better coordinated mechanic. I'll try this again. We need a 6-rib poly V with a K pitch. So the poly V means it's basically a serpentine belt. It's got the multi-V in it instead of just a single V belt. I'm really struggling down here with the crank pulley. Okay, let's see how bad a job I did there. Okay, that's really loose down there still, so we're going to pull that a bit tighter. And now I'm just making a mess of the tape. Okay, back to, we've got 6 ribs because we've got 6 V's in here. It's a K spacing, so that's the pitch width on there. And if I just grab a, here's a typical box from a, oh, sorry, shaking the camera here. So that actually means something. So that's the K pitch for a poly V. That's 5, so we've got 6 grooves there. This is 5. So I mean, we could use a 5 groove belt on here. We're just going to not use one of the grooves. We could actually use a 4 groove on here if we wanted to as well. And then the last 3 numbers here are the belt length, so 34.0 inches. So we're going to cut our tape and we're going to measure it and see how long our belt needs to be. Well, there's 36 inches, and we need from there, we need another 3.5. Okay, so 36 plus 3.5 is 39.5 inches. So that's what we're going to look for. So we're going to hit the interwebs and see if that belt exists in a 6 rib, and if not, we'll see if it exists in a 5 rib, and if not, we'll see if it exists in a 4 rib. So hang tight. All right, we're back from the Autopot store, and we've got ourselves a 5 rib, 39.6 inch long belt, and I could have gone with a 6 rib, but I'm not 100% confident on the alignment of the alternator because it's my own custom bracket. So with the 5 rib, it gives us an extra rib to play with for misalignment, and you know, at 6,000 plus RPM, the belt can move around and find its happy place wherever it wants to be. So let's see how good we are with my measurement. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Okay, so put some water in here, tighten up the alternator brackets, and fortunately it is a nice hot day today, so we can go out and torture test this thing and see how we're going to do. Well, we're back after a test drive on a nice hot day, and yeah, that made this much of a difference, unfortunately. You can hear the fan is still running because I'm going to let the thing cool down a little bit more, but yeah, for whatever reason, this new street motor likes to make heat. And evidently I need to throw more money and more effort at this thing, so I'm not sure what's next. I got a pretty big ass fan on there, so it might be time to upgrade the radiator. But I would have, you know, I would have thought the stock radiator would have been fine. Maybe I need a big ass aluminum one, so shovel more money into it. Anyway, I think it's time to take a break from this thing for a while and work on the GTO because this car has now officially pissed me off. Anyway, we're going to end it there. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Share these videos with your friends. And we'll see you on the next video, which is hopefully going to be working on the GTO. Or anything else. All right, typical cheap-ass sandblaster. We'll see how it goes. Last time I did any kind of sandblasting at length, my compressor seized up, so I had to rebuild it, but who cares about that stuff? Cheap-ass gloves. If I can peel this off without wrecking it. Like that.